This week on Hometown Ghost Stories. Nestled in the rolling hills of northwest Arkansas, Bentonville is a charming town with a shadowy past. Beyond its picturesque streets and bustling art scene lies a history teeming with whispers of ghostly encounters. Spirits are said to wander the downtown buildings, but it's the Peele Mansion and the story of a girl who came back from the dead that truly sets Bentonville apart. This is Hometown Ghost Stories, Bentonville, Arkansas.
Hometown Ghost Stories contains serious and often distressing events and is not intended for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Mr. Allen, why is this door locked? Marjorie asked, stunned as she approached the door with multiple deadbolts on the outside. Well, you'll think I'm crazy, but the ghost of a little girl who died in there has haunted this place for years now, Mr. Allen said nervously, not knowing what to expect that Marjorie and her husband might think. Marjorie's face went pale. Mr. White, I am the little girl who died in that room. He blinked and then let out a nervous chuckle. You've got some sense of humor, Mrs. English. That's good, because this house, well, it can be a bit unnerving. But Marjorie wasn't laughing. Her hand trembled as she reached out to touch the cold metal of the top deadbolt. Marjorie couldn't tear her eyes away from the door. Later that night, she woke up to a sound. It wasn't her husband snoring or the creaks of the old house settling. This was different. A rhythmic tapping. It sounded like fingernails drumming against a wooden surface. Tap. 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 She sat up in bed, the chill of the room hitting her skin. "William," she whispered, nudging her husband. He stirred, but didn't wake. The tapping continued, louder now, coming from down the hall. Her heart pounded as she slipped out of bed and began heading towards the noise. Each step she took made the wooden floor groan beneath her feet. The sound of the tapping led her straight to the locked door. The deadbolts glinted in the faint light, and the air around the door seemed colder than the rest of the house. As she stood there, the tapping stopped, replaced by a faint, childlike giggle that sent a spike of fear down her spine. She shouldn't do it. She knew that much. Every rational part of her told her to turn around, to crawl back into bed, and pretend that this was just a bad dream. But something else, something deeper, compelled her to stay. With shaking hands, she unlatched the first deadbolt. The click echoed unnaturally loud in the silence. And then the second. Finally the third. Each lock felt like peeling back a layer of an old wound. The door creaked open. The room inside was impossibly cold. A faint glow illuminated the center of the room, and Marjorie froze when she saw her. A little girl stood there, barefoot and wearing a faded white dress smeared with what looked like blood. Her hair was dark and tangled, and her eyes were wide, almost too wide, as if they could see straight through Marjorie. Marjorie's breath caught in her throat. The girl's face was hauntingly familiar. Who are you?" Marjorie whispered, though she already knew the answer. The girl tilted her head. A small, sad smile formed over her lips. Memories Marjorie had buried flooded back in an instant. The burst appendix that had left her writhing in agony as a child. The way the air in this very room had felt heavy and strange, like it was pressing the life out of her. The moment she'd slipped away, her tiny hand clutching the edge of the bed as her spirit drifted upward, watching her father weep over her lifeless body. But she hadn't stayed gone. She had been pulled back, or so she thought. Tears blurred her vision as she stared at the ghostly child. "I did die," she whispered, "but I came back." The girl shook her head slowly. "Not all of you." What do you mean?" And then Marjorie's vision began to blur, and the room seemed to spin. The air grew heavier until everything went black. She woke up on the cold floor, her head pounding. The room was still dark. As her eyes adjusted to the dim light, the moonlight streaming through the window illuminated a single, dusty child-sized handprint on the glass. I'm Rob Coakley, and this is Hometown Ghost Stories, Bentonville, Arkansas. Located in the northwest corner of Arkansas, Bentonville officially became a town in the year 1873, although the area was occupied for some time before then. Sitting in the foothills of the Ozark Mountains, it has been a place known for tourism. In 1950, Sam Walton would move to the town and open Walton's Five and Dime store near the center of town. 12 years later, Walton would open the first Walmart just a few miles away in Rogers, Arkansas. The original Five and Dime store in Bentonville is now a part of the Walmart Museum. Although there's been no reports of hauntings at the museum located at 105 North Main Street, the same cannot be said for the building 2 doors down at 111 North Main. Now the Azul Tequila Bistro, the building has housed many different businesses since being built sometime around 1880. Two of the more fondly remembered businesses were the Cozy Movie Theater, which closed its doors in 1956, and the Station Cafe, which left the building in 2018. Reports date back decades of a ghostly male figure lurking in the hallways and rooms of the building. The spirit is also believed to not be friendly. Items within the building have said to be violently thrown around different rooms within. No one has been able to pinpoint exactly who this spirit is or why he's angry. With so many different occupants and businesses throughout the years, perhaps one of the former business owners isn't happy with the many changes of the building. A building that hasn't changed its purpose since its inception in the town is the old High Middle School. Built in 1928, the school has been in use ever since and was even listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1989. It's believed that the current students aren't the only ones in the building. Sightings of ghostly students roaming the halls have been reported for decades. One of the more reported stories allegedly happened in 2005. A student operating as a hall monitor saw a girl skipping down the hallway while all the other students were still in class. Wanting to fulfill his duties, he started to follow the girl to make sure she was allowed by her teacher to venture off. Just then, the principal was coming out of his office, and the hall monitor called him over, and they began to follow the girl together. They observed her still skipping and running her hands down the lockers. What caught them off guard was her clothing was reminiscent of what a student in the 1950s would wear. The principal called out several times before the girl finally stopped. However, before the hall monitor and the principal were able to catch up, the girl simply disappeared. If you were to stop a resident of Bentonville on the street and ask them to show you the most haunted location in the town, most would point you towards the Peele Mansion. Samuel Peele would enter the Confederate Army as a private, and by the end of his service, he would move all the way up to lieutenant colonel. Once leaving the Army, he would begin to study and practice law, and would quickly move on to being a prosecuting attorney, and eventually elected to the House of Representatives, where he served for 10 years. During all of this, he would begin construction on a house that would be completed in 1875. Courting his wife Mary, he had promised to build her a fine mansion that reminded her of homes from her childhood in Alabama. The couple, who had 9 children, would live in the house until Mary's death in 1902. Samuel would move out the following year, but was unable to sell the home until 1910. It's believed that after his passing in 1924, he returned to haunt the house. Yet, He's not the only member of the Peele family believed to haunt the historic property, though. His daughter, Minnie Bell, is believed to haunt the home as well. Samuel is believed to be a male shadow figure that has been seen in the hallways and rooms of the mansion throughout the years. He's also been associated with items disappearing, and on occasion, the sound of a male voice calling down the hallway has been heard. Minnie, who was a piano player in her life, has carried that passion into the afterlife. The sound of the piano playing with no one around it has been attributed to Minnie still playing music from beyond the grave in her childhood home. Although the Peels were the family that built and lived in the house first, they're not believed to be the only former residents that haunt the home turned museum. The mansion was purchased in the 1920s by W.L. English, who moved in with his wife, 2 sons, and twin girls, Marjorie and Elizabeth. While playing tennis one day outside, Marjorie would collapse from pain emanating from her side. The doctor was called, but could find no cause initially. The doctor was unaware that on occasion, twins can have some organs on the opposite side of the body from what is normal. What happened to Marjorie was that her appendix had swelled and ruptured. When this was finally discovered, a surgeon was called to the house immediately to operate, and they brought 2 kitchen tables to the bedroom. The infection was reportedly so bad that the nurse with the surgeon fainted in disbelief during the surgery. After completing the procedure as best he could, the doctor stated that there was no chance that Marjorie would survive. Marjorie would fight for her life over the course of the next several days, and eventually she woke up at one point to see her father crying by her side. When she asked why he was crying, his response was, quote, "Because you're so sick," end quote. To which Marjorie responded, quote, "Don't worry, Dad, I feel wonderful," end quote. Shortly after, she passed away, and a sheet was placed over her body in the bedroom. 5 hours later, while family and friends were in the room with Marjorie's body, several of them saw the sheet begin to move. They checked under the sheet and were shocked to see that Marjorie was in fact alive. Word spread amongst the family, town, and the migrant workers at the house. The workers were terrified and believed that although Marjorie was alive, her spirit was trapped by the sheet and never able to return to her body. Eventually, the English family would sell the home, and years later, Marjorie would arrange a visit to her childhood home to show her husband William where she grew up. As they toured the home, they came upon the room that Marjorie had her surgery and died in. She was shocked to see that the room was boarded up and blocked off. When she asked the new owner, Lee Allen, why that room was inaccessible, he told her that no one was allowed to go in that room anymore. "It's haunted by the ghost of a little girl that passed away in there years ago," he said. Marjorie was stunned, and she tried to explain to Mr. Allen that she was in fact that girl, but he didn't believe her. Since the time of Marjorie's death, the ghost of a little girl has been heard playing in the home to this day. She's been known to sing nursery rhymes and run up and down the hallways of the home. The one question that remains is it in fact the ghost of Marjorie, or is it something else entirely?
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Hometown Ghost Stories, episode number 148. Back in the swing of things with some regular episodes. I'm Jesse Wilkins. I'm joined by Rob Coakley. Hello, Rob.
You know, I'm a big fan of going to museums, but I think I draw the line at the Walmart Museum. I don't think there's anything in the Walmart museum that I need to go see. I don't need to know, the first sale sign when they put, dishwashers on sale for the first time in 1972. I don't need to see that plaque. I think I'm
Now,
good.
there's not much that I would be interested in seeing either. I do wonder if they have like the real artifacts and then the great value version of the artifacts at the Walmart Museum.
I hope they have like a
Maybe.
whole section of just like pictures on the wall of like the people of Walmart over years. I think I'd go to that museum.
They have the
maybe.
first Cookie Monster pajamas ever worn into a Walmart, just in a
Yes.
shrine there. So yeah, I think
Hell
that's how it goes.
Yeah. Speaking of great value, we're also joined by our great value version of a host, Dave Wilkins. Hello, Dave.
Hey, not bad. Timu version. Timu Dave.
Yeah. Absolutely. So welcome in, folks. And thanks to everybody who's hanging out in live chat before the stream even started. Brenda C came in and donated 50 Hometown Ghost Stories memberships. Thank you so much, Brenda, for your generosity. And thanks to everyone who's hanging out. As we talked about last week on our live show, we will be doing a giveaway at the end of this stream for one of those luxurious haunted, cursed items that we talked about. Now, if you missed that stream, oh boy, we got something in store for you later on, but we'll go more over that later. Big shout out to our RIP of the week. Who is that again?
Shane Michael Blake. He has a lot of first names, so it could be anybody, actually.
Yes. Good.
All three of his names are first names.
All three of his names are first names. So shout out to him for being the RIP of the week. I also want to remind everybody, if you are a $10 or $20 member on Patreon, you get exclusive content that we do once a month, and you can hear the tale of the Flying Dutchman right now before the January one what drops. That was for December. And also we will be doing another giveaway when we hit certain milestones for reviews on Apple Podcast and Spotify Podcast. We're about 60 reviews away on each of those. So make sure you're leaving a review and showing us that you left a review.
Yes, absolutely. It's exciting stuff. You know what else is exciting is Arkansas. We're going to cover that today. But what I love more than Arkansas is a last minute guest appearance. And ladies and gentlemen, the record holder for all-time appearances on Hometown Ghost Stories is our guest for today. You might know him from the Paranormal Portal. You might know him from his guest appearances on many paranormal podcasts. You might know him from his multiple appearances on this podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome in the one and only Brent Thomas. Welcome in, Brent.
Wow, I missed you guys. I really missed being here, hanging out with you guys. Of all the shows out there, you guys are in my top 3.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 50, which we were going to do with.
Just crack the top 100.
that comment in the chat just about killed me, though. I was sitting here rolling because of the haunted fleshlight.
I accidentally put that one on screen. Not gonna lie. Sometimes I don't know what's allowed and what isn't, and I accidentally clicked on that one, and it ended up on the screen. So glad you read it out. Just
no, well, I thought I'd just immortalize it for the audio listeners as well.
Well, it's good to have you. It's good to see that you survived yet another spooky season. We also just barely squeaked by and survived another spooky season. But again, if you're unfamiliar with Brent Thomas, he is from the Paranormal Portal, a phenomenal show. We've been on that show. He's obviously been on this show many times, and he's my favorite guest. I don't know about you guys, but Brent's an absolute legend. So
he's in my top 50 for sure of all our guests.
Easily cracks the list of guests.
Yes.
Well,
he's
in
been
general. Yeah,
he's been on the show. He's
definitely one of the guests, that's for sure. So thank you so much. What's been going on the old Paranormal Portal these days?
I just the family and I went over to Minnesota for the holidays, so it was like 20 hours of driving there and 20 hours again to get back home to the north of Idaho. But I've really been just trying to catch up since I've been home, but nothing a lot. Just grinding away, doing the paranormal.
You know what's crazy is like they made this thing years ago now. It's called airplanes.
Yeah. and you miss all the country. Are you kidding me? It's like a vacation and a vacation watching all those mile markers go by.
Gotta love it.
I only got one speeding ticket too, by the way.
Oh,
only one.
That's what Dave does when we go on trips too.
Thank you, Montana. That's a shout out to Montana. Just
It does happen. I got pulled over Sunday. It's the first time in a long time I got pulled over. And it's been so long that like
My fat ass was pulling into a drive-through when I got pulled over. So I'm sitting in the drive-through and the cop's behind me and he's got his lights on. I'm like, oh, he's got his lights on. I'm like, wait, am I getting pulled over in a drive-through? And it's so I like pull into a parking spot and I roll down the window and stick my head out. I'm like, is that for me? He's like, yeah. I'm like, oh shit. So, turns out my registration expired like a long time ago. I didn't know. But yeah, the little sticker on the back license plate. Make sure you renew that because
I get pulled over every year for an expired registration. It's like my annual thing that I do.
Well, that's a great thing to do annually, I guess, if you have to pick something.
We all got to make traditions, and how we choose to celebrate them is all differently.
I have to renew mine every year because I have a vanity plate.
Yeah,
and
mine's every year too because it's commercial.
I can't get rid of that joke, so I just pay for that joke every year.
The joke is actually his vehicle. It's not the license plate. It's a little V6 dig. 2 in a row. 2 in a row. Back-to-back weeks, back-to-back V6 jokes.
Yeah,
good. So we're talking about Bentonville, Arkansas, which there are many places that are haunted in Arkansas, and Bentonville seems to be full of them. So let's hop into it. What do you guys say?
Yeah, Bentonville actually, it's startlingly different than what you think of when you think of Arkansas. This place has like this really vibrant art scene within the town, and you can kind of see it everywhere. They have like painted tennis courts, and they have a big art museum there. The downtown area looks really nice. When I was looking through the town itself, I was like, there's no trailers in the center of town. I just assumed Arkansas is, double wides and single wides just lining the streets of the entire town. But Bentonville looks actually really nice. So shout out to them.
Well, to make up for all the trailers that are missing, you do have the Walmart museum. So.
That's true. You do have that.
At least you have that.
Yeah. So they do make up for it. But surprisingly, that's not one of the haunted buildings. It's the building that is 2 doors down, which has been around since 1880. And the number of businesses that have been in there is astronomical. Like, I was just trying to find out how many different businesses were in this one location, and I couldn't find all of them, but I found the ones that people remember it by.
Apparently it's not a good location.
Yeah.
You actually see this with a lot of haunted buildings, is that businesses can't stay there for a while, whether it's like a cursed location because of the history of the place or because it's haunted. We saw that with the haunted Gucci store a while back. They just picked up and left. They're like, no. We've had enough of this. Yeah. But we've seen it with a few places in New Orleans. I remember when I went on my first ghost tour in New Orleans, we had stopped by a business that was actually closed because no small business could just stay. It just seemed like it was a cursed location. And no matter who moved in there, no matter what the business was it a bar, was it a retail store, anything that went in there, it only lasted like a month or two before it had to close. So I wonder if that's the same kind of thing that's happening here.
Yeah. It could be. And what we see with this place, I was trying to find pictures of it, and I was trying to find pictures of like the Walmart and this building next, the Walmart museum with this building, and every picture is just a different business. So I'm just like, dude, like I can't find the one with the new Azul tequila bistro that's there. It's all the chocolate place that was before it. The Station Cafe was a restaurant that was there before that. But what people seem to remember it by that have been around for a long time is it used to be a movie theater, which is crazy because this building's not that large. Oh, wow. So it must have been a couple screens at most in this place, and it was called the Cozy Movie Theater. And that seems to be what people remember it for, but nobody knows where the ghostly activity comes from. There's no name attached to it. But the thing that's a little different for this one, Jesse, than these other businesses that we've covered in the past, is this one actually does seem like it's a violent, mean spirit, where a lot of times it's just people that worked there hanging out in the past and not really doing much. This one seems to really much not be happy with the way things are in the place now and tends to throw things around violently and feels it's like a menacing presence when people are there.
Which might makes sense to what I was saying earlier as to why businesses don't stay there. If there's something that's just menacing in there, just messing with customers and merchandise and throwing stuff around or hurting people, then obviously that is not good for business. So that could be the case. Could be the case. Yeah, those old movie theaters, like there's one in our hometown. It's building us now a liquor store, which is much better. But it used to be a movie theater, and it's very small. It's the one kind of near where Brodad lives, Mom and Pop's.
It's the Sherwin-Williams paint store.
Was it also a Sherwin? No, wait.
No, it is now.
Oh, was it also
now it's Sherwin-Williams?
The one I'm talking about is still a liquor store. It was the one that Yogi owned and pretended that it got robbed.
Oh, down by down by the water.
Yeah, so that building was
Fieldston?
also a movie theater back in the day.
No kidding. I didn't know that.
You can kind of tell by the back that it's got that big. But my point is that like it's also a very small building. The Sherwin-Williams is a relatively small building. So you look at those and you say, how can this be a movie theater? But I think a lot of the older ones, they just had 1, 2, tops 3 screens. So a lot of these smaller buildings could be movie theaters.
Yeah. If there's any olds in the chat, let us know. When you used to go to the movies in the 50s, was there only one screen?
There used to be a drive-in in Marshfield too.
Yeah, I've still never in my life gone to a drive-in.
I have also never gone to a drive-in.
Yeah. I was up in Maine and went to go see the double header of Anchorman and something else. I forget what the other one was because Anchorman was so memorable.
It was.
Yeah.
Love that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
they're not around anymore.
No, but we have a few around here. We're getting way off topic though. Let's wrap up the Azul Tequila Bistro.
I will say before we get completely off that, what I would love to do for a drive-in is I see they do some of the drive-ins and they show some of the what movies are it? The one by Crystal Lake.
The Friday the 13th.
I was going to say Friday the 13th. I really didn't want to be wrong. It might have been worse that I didn't even take a guess at it. But the Friday the 13th movies, they do like drive-in where you can watch that at Camp Crystal Lake. It seems like
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, they do that at the Rocky Woods around here sometimes. On Friday the 13th, it's not even a drive-in. It's just they set up a screen in the woods and you go there and you watch a double header of the Friday the 13th movies, which I've always wanted to do.
I think the Crystal Lake one, Nick, you literally like get like a floaty and you float in the lake. I might be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure I've seen that happen as well. So
that seems very dangerous.
We know how
to float in movie theater.
Hell yeah.
We've just created a new business.
I like it.
We may have completely ripped it off from the idea that I just
created a new business based on something we just heard about.
Yeah. I got this idea. We'll rent out a big building. We'll get a huge screen and we'll show movies at it and people will pay money to go see the movie. What do you think about that idea?
Yeah, but I think we should make all the money on popcorn and soda. That's what I think we should do.
Now you're thinking.
Yeah. That's the way to do it. So yeah, I've seen reports from people that have gone to the building as recently as it being the Azul place, the Mexican restaurant, and still having some of the hauntings happen there as well. But the main haunting, as I continue to not be able to talk, is items getting tossed around violently in different rooms throughout the place, and makes it really sketchy as a restaurant because you're talking about like forks and knives getting tossed and stuff like that. I don't avocados for sure.
Gotta watch out for those.
Tequila bottles.
So for those of you who don't know, Azul Tequila stands for blue tequila.
Thanks.
This is why Brent set his background with blue today.
That's right.
And drank a whole bottle of tequila. That's fair. He's ready.
I'll do anything I can to get in the door, boys. Yeah.
Tequila is the liquor that I can no longer drink.
No, either. I got a lot of nightmares from tequila. So yeah.
I never remember my dreams when I drink tequila.
I just get a lot of kids on it.
Last time I drank tequila, I just started walking around naked at a party, and I just ever since then can't even smell it anymore.
Is that the one you got arrested at?
No.
Oh, it was a different party than that one. All right.
Yeah, no, that was a different one. That's going to be a residual haunt. I hope that's a residual haunting one day. Like after I pass away, that old apartment of mine,
Just you walking through the kitchen in a Batman onesie, whatever it was.
And Dave's residual haunting is just going to be inviting the police into the building. It's okay. Come check it out.
Arrest Rob, please.
Come see if
not
this
what
guy has a
happened.
warrant. All right, anyways, we should talk about Arkansas.
So the other place that we covered here before we get to the Peele Mansion is the worst named school of all time, the Old High Middle School.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that was not a good choice.
No,
It's a little confusing.
yeah,
Well, it's better than the old high middle elementary school that they have down the street.
Takes me back to my youth, boys.
We don't know which part of it, but it's some part of the youth.
It's a full spectrum.
it was so. It's just like name it after like I don't know. Name it after somebody. Don't call it the Old High Middle School. It's a middle school now, so it's no longer a high school. It's confusing. This one is interesting because there is stories attached to it, and I didn't even go into some of the story because I'd rather discuss it because I think it's a bunch of bullshit. And what happened is people are seeing this. What actually happens is people see this student walking down the hallway, and they've described what she looks like and stuff like that. And I think because of that haunting, a legend got born from it, and it's really sounds made up from students. So it is from that haunting. People are saying that a student from the 1950s was hanged by her best friend in the school.
Ooh.
I'm just going to go on a limb. I'm just going to say like this. Not a good
Oh,
friend.
No, not a good friend for sure.
Yeah.
But also not a good story. And not a
Also
good
not a
time
good
frame.
metaphor. You can't use go out on a limb for talking about hanging someone.
But yeah, if that happened in the 1950s, it'd be easily we would find that story, right? Like I'd be able to dig that up on a newspaper archive with no question. And I actually did search. I was like, I'm going to make sure that this didn't happen before I write this story and say that this happened or didn't happen. And I couldn't find anything that even resembled that happening anywhere in the state of Arkansas in the 1950s, never mind in Bentonville. So I think the story came from the haunting. The haunting, there are multiple reports of the haunting. 2003, I believe I said, was the most prominent one with the hall monitor was following the student down. The principal saw the ghost as well. But the story that came from it, I think it was manufactured to revolve around the haunting.
Yeah, you can see that.
So-
I mean, this is what kids do.
Yeah, and fair enough. Because I think we all like to know why. So we start to invent things in our head and figure out like why could this possibly be happening? And our mind goes to things being negative, where this is probably just a residual haunting of somebody that went to school here and used to skip down those hallways in the 1950s or whatever, and was a happy place for them or just a memory for them, and their spirit does it on certain intervals throughout the month or the years, and people go with that, they run with it, and they make up these stories to justify it in their own mind. Why would she be haunting here? What dark situation happened? And it's like, not everything has to be dark for there to be a haunting.
Right. But if there is rumors of a haunting and kids hear about that haunting, especially if they are told from an adult, or if it's just the rumor around town that the place is haunted, they're going to come up with their own stories to scare each other. Happens all the time. Happened when I was a kid. I remember we had the Winslow house down the street. We released some of that investigation footage actually, because we did go there, which was pretty cool. But growing up, there was the notorious haunted historical building, and everyone had their own stories about why that place was haunted. And every kid's story was more gory than the next kid's story because everyone's trying to one up each other and scare each other, when it turns out that yes, people died in that house, but it was mostly just because they got sick, right? But there was no mass murderer that dumped his bodies at the Winslow house or anything. Still a haunted building. We did get some cool stuff there. Maybe we'll do an episode on it eventually. But to take fact from, separate fact from fiction, and also the building can still be haunted. That school can still be haunted, But just because people go and make up stories and try to scare one another, it doesn't necessarily mean that the building isn't haunted. It just means that those stories got born, and kids will always exaggerate those situations.
Could be an egregore though too. The old idea that if enough people believe something is real, then perhaps that energy is created and it creates a phenomena. And I don't know how you guys feel about that, but it's certainly a widely held belief in the paranormal that's, some of these legends are created by people believing in them.
Yeah. So I think with those scenarios, because you do hear that pretty often, and it's something that's widely believed. I just don't know if it's the exact thing. Like if someone's like, "Oh my gosh, the toad demon haunts this pond," and everyone's talking about the toad demon, I don't think that enough people talking about the toad demon is going to make the toad demon real. But
No,
I do think
I don't
that
even know if that's the theory, though. Isn't the theory?
well, no.
That...
Let me finish. So,
Okay.
but I do think that if enough people bring their terrified energy around that pond, that something malevolent could be attracted to there because of the heightened levels of energy. And are they necessarily conjuring the toad demon? No, but they could be attracting something else that is going to make that location more haunted. And then people are just going to attribute that to the toad demon. Sorry.
Brent, I'm just curious because I don't know a lot about this theory, but I would say so if the theory is, I understand the theory if somebody dies and their energy leaves their body and lingers, then that can be where that energy came from. But according to physics, energy can't be created or destroyed. So it's not like you can create energy. So how is that?
Well, the idea is that perhaps people are leaving their own imprints by believing in something like an energetic projection per se, and that it's kind of like the common trope of the hotel that has the little child that fell down the stairs and broke her neck, and so many hotels across the country have this legend, and people will swear they will see this little child running through the halls, and but there's no historical precedent for it. There's no record of any child ever falling and breaking their neck, and yet it's something that does occur. So the belief is that by enough people believing in it and possibly going in and looking for it, leaving an imprint for it, that it can take on a consciousness of its own. It's a very esoteric and kind of metaphysical idea, but could that be? Could people actually manifest hauntings based on a belief that a haunting is real? And I don't discount what you're saying either, Jesse, that, perhaps by all these people leaving these imprints, maybe something does wander in and this takes on that persona. I don't know. I mean, it could be a lot of things.
Yeah, no, it's such a widespread theory that I think there's got to be something there, but I just don't think that. I think it's probably more so the situation I was talking about, where it could create an environment where something could latch onto it and be attracted to that scenario. I just don't feel like if enough people believe that the ghost of the headless horseman is really haunting a certain building, that the headless horseman's eventually be like, well, I guess I will, so I just think it would be like, you like I said earlier, I think you're creating enough energy where something could attach itself to that, and it could mimic. We've seen that plenty of times as well, where whether it's a mimic or a demonic figure mimicking a kid, we've seen that a lot, where certain kind of hauntings seem to try to make people believe that it's something not as threatening to try to let their guard down. So
this is sort of our theory with Emily's Bridge too, though. Like, this is something that could absolutely be happening there, where we can't find the historical story that is told over and over and over again and has been told for decades and decades and over 100 years. And maybe something is manifesting there because of it. And to your point, Jesse, it doesn't mean that it's a ghost that, is all of a sudden named Emily and is this ghost of this woman. It could be something darker. It could be something that is there to prey on that fear. I don't know. That's just sort of something that could be going on there as well.
And another point, if you don't mind me interjecting again, but the other one of my pet peeves is personally, when I do investigations, is when people go in with the expectation, well, it's Phil, the old janitor, he's haunting this place, and then the whole investigation is aimed at Phil. And Phil, are you there? Phil, can you hear me? And if anything happens, it just kind of reinforces the idea, well, Phil showed up, he Well, how do you know it's Phil? I mean, what do you how do you know what you're talking to or what you're dealing with? So there's that angle as well.
Oh, that's absolutely an angle. I mean, like we have so many of these things where it's like, we'll give people the benefit of the doubt. And when they say that it's the ghost of this Civil War captain who's haunting this building, we'll read that as is, during the regular part of the episode. But later on in the episode, we're like, well, what makes you believe that it's actually him? Like, well, we got the smell of cigar smoke. We saw it with the Driscoll Hotel. That's the main haunting where they think it's Driscoll's ghost because they smell the cigar smoke. And we mention this all the time. It's like, well, how do you know it's not a ghost of someone else who smokes a cigar? It's
had a cigar shop in the lobby of the place when the place opened. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
ding, ding.
So unless there's sightings of full-bodied apparitions where they're seeing evidence that it is a certain person, or if there's other contributing factors, like, you got a kid who died in the house who used to kick the ball around the second floor when he was alive, and now the balls will get kicked around on the second floor. Watch out, guys. If you go up there, maybe that, so you could find something in life that you could connect in death, then maybe that is that person. But unless you have some actual evidence, like that's why that's this person, I think it's more safe to just say, we got a ghost.
Right.
Could be this person, could be that person, could be someone we don't know. But I feel like it's more safe just to say we have some paranormal activity here, and rather than nailing it down with a name, because you could be just wrong about that ghost name, and who knows how badly you're pissing this thing off and what it can do. Dangerous stuff.
Amen.
And that leads us into the Peele Mansion, which honestly, there's a couple of different alleged spirits haunting this place. We're going to talk about the Peele family real quick, but it's the story of Marjorie English that really caught my attention and made me want to do Bentonville, because it's just so different. And I don't know what to think of it. I've been kind of back and forth on it throughout the week. But let's talk about the Peele family real quick. So, yeah, Samuel Peele, who is the one who built the house for his family. They're the original owners. Him and his daughter are alleged to haunt the place. And he's sort of got that typical 1880s haunting. You see his spirit. You hear a man walking down the hall. It's the normal. His daughter is a piano player. And the one reason I would want to go actually investigate this place is for you to play the piano, Jesse, to see if we could, a ghost that is into playing the piano. I wonder if someone actually playing the piano would help communicate with the spirit, right? So I would find that to be very interesting. And that is one of the more common hauntings coming out of this place. I found numerous stories of people saying they heard the piano playing while they were in there, with no one that was either able to play the piano or no one around the area of where the piano was.
Right. And it's not necessarily someone who knows how to play piano either. I read a few posts of people that they would just say that they would hear like one piano note every once in a while. So that's pretty cool stuff. But we've tried this twice. Basically any haunted location that has a piano, we'll just give it a go, because why not? But we tried that at the S.K. Pierce Mansion. It conjured absolutely nothing. But at the Hearts of Hall, activity did seem to pick up. Now, we haven't dropped that episode yet, so I won't spoil anything, but I'd be absolutely willing to try it out for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a trigger object, right? It's something that they enjoyed in life, and it could resonate with a spirit enough to bring them forth and feel more comfortable communicating. So I always like when we have something like that. It's great that you can actually play, because even when we went to the S.K. Pierce Mansion, even though you weren't, you played the piano and nothing came about from that particular situation, you played notes for a song that was written that no one had ever heard there, which was really cool.
That was cool.
You can go check out the S.K. Pierce Mansion episode to see some of that. But yeah, I always like
that episode.
I don't know if we did, to be
It was
honest.
pretty cool because the woman was there. Said her, I forget what the story was, but I don't know if it was her or the owner's husband had written the song for her, and then he passed away, and they had the music for the song, and Jesse's like, oh, well, he just puts it down and he plays the song, and the woman was like blown away. She's like, I've never heard it played before. I just know that he wrote it.
Yeah.
So that was,
I completely forgot about that until right now. And I was just pretending I knew what Rob was talking about for a little bit. I'm like, yeah. Yeah, I played that song. But yeah, she gave me the sheet music for audio listeners, like so, well, for every listener. But she gave me the sheet music, like, yeah, this is the song. So I just, I did my best to play it. It's tough to sight read on the first try, but that's pretty cool. The only tricky thing with playing piano at this location is going to be trying to learn a new Creed song. Because obviously I only play Creed songs, so it's gonna be tough.
That's all they listen to in Arkansas anyway, so it works out perfectly fine. So this gets us into the story of Marjorie.
Tessa's comment's pretty good. If I played piano for a ghost, they would come back to life to ask me to stop.
It's pretty good. This story of Marjorie is wild.
It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, so Marjorie's family buys the house in the 1920s, and she has a twin sister. And they're just outside playing tennis, and Marjorie starts feeling this pain. And it sends her to having to see a doctor. It's like that severe. And the doctor checks her out. And me and Dave were talking about this like last week because he has twins. And I was like, dude, I have to research this. I have to do this medical research because I don't know if this is a thing or not. I don't know if I'm just reading a bullshit story. And basically, if you have identical twins, one of the twins' organs can be inverted, basically, and be on the other side of the body than where they typically are. So I thought that, I was like, that can't be real. That can't be.
I do wish it was a little cooler, like a belly button on the forehead, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, it is pretty cool that it's like a mirror image. I didn't know that either because Rob asked me, he's like, Dave, you have twins. Do you know this? I'm like, I'm not familiar with like their internal anatomy. But yeah, we looked it up.
Hey, where's your liver today? Dave only asked that because he kind of needs it.
Yeah, like the appendix could be on the opposite side for one.
Yeah.
That's pretty weird.
Yeah. So the doctor didn't know this because, doctors in the 1920s, he's like, yeah, she's fine. She wasn't fine. He ended up having her appendix burst, and they had to do an operation. At first, I was thinking of the Sally House because it's just like that story sort of starts the same idea.
But what did he think? Like he checked the appendix and was like, oh, wait, there's actually none because it was just on the wrong side. What are we doing?
I don't know. He's a doctor.
He could have been looking for like an inflamed, infected organ and was like, nope, there's not one here. Just didn't check the other side.
Yeah, he's also a doctor in the 1920s. He probably told her to, I don't know, go sit in an ice bath for 3 minutes and you'll be better or something.
Yeah, you with your backwards lungs and your heart's in your elbow, but I see nothing wrong here.
Yeah, your right kidney's on the left side, and your left kidney's on the right side.
You got to be kidding me.
Oh no, that's the show, folks. That forever. We're just gonna end it now. So they pull some tables upstairs and they operate on her within the house. Apparently, it's really bad, and so bad the nurse supposedly faints.
Also, the nurse just straight up didn't even sew her back up. She's like, wow, she's not going to make it. Not even going to bother closing these wounds.
Yeah, I read that too. And I was like, I don't know if I buy this because she was supposedly alive for days before she passed away. And I just don't think they would have somebody alive just sitting there with an open wound.
Okay, so I one time had major surgery when I was a teenager. I had a blood, an artery, I guess, pinhole tear in an artery that ended up clotting like a blood clot the size of like a cantaloupe. It was crazy because it was like a slow accumulation of the blood clot over the course of like a month. So they finally like operated and took this thing out, but they couldn't find out where that was bleeding from because the pinhole was so small. So they had to send me into Boston. So they didn't stitch me up. They just stuffed it with gauze and then sent me into Boston where I waited surgery there and just with an open wound. So that is common practice. And this was in early 2000s. So
yeah,
or late 90s.
We actually requested that they do that just to see.
Well, see, Dave, since then we've invented stitches.
Yeah, I know. Well, they didn't want to have to stitch it up and then pull them back out.
That's $50. I'll never get back.
It was like, you just drag him through the mud on the way to Boston as well.
What I would believe you is that if you actually paid the ambulance driver to hit every pothole on the way over, because that sticks in my memory.
It did help that you were small enough where they would actually take the Power Wheels ambulance, but
yeah.
Despite how long that took, you still survived.
So she's has the surgery. She's there. It doesn't look good. And she has that moment with her father, which was like really touching and sad, where he's like sad, he's like crying over her. And she's like, "Don't feel bad, Dad. I feel fine." And then just dies. So now the dad feels way worse.
Yeah.
Turns out she was wrong.
Yeah.
Turns out she wasn't fine.
Turns out she was way off.
But only
She
for a
was-
few hours, right?
She knew as much as the doctor, apparently, at that point. And so they put this sheet over her. And this house was like an orchard at the time, too. So they had a lot of people that were migrant workers coming to work at the orchard. And it got around that after a couple hours, she started moving. Someone saw the sheet moving. And they went and checked, and she was alive after being pronounced dead hours before.
Wow, this is a comedy of errors here.
Yeah. And so as they bring her back, she gets back to life, the migrant workers were like, something's off. And they thought that her spirit never got back to her body because it was trapped by the sheet that was over her. Which sounds wild, right? Like, it sounds crazy. It sounds like nonsensical.
No, it sounds like that ghost was almost an actual ghost with a sheet for a minute, just like
you blew
floating
it.
around the room.
Well,
Sounds like I
that's
have
why
it.
you have that image of ghost with sheets, though, because they used to put that white shawl thing over
Oh.
bodies, so people would see ghost as someone rising up with that sheet still over them.
Okay.
That's why you get that image of ghosts.
But they
Um,
cut the holes in them so you could see.
yeah.
Definitely.
It's important detail.
just in case they were alive, because they knew the doctors were shit.
My last dying wish to be buried with a pair of scissors, just cut all back.
I saw somebody who, God, I don't know where I saw this, but somebody who said that they wanted to donate their body or their organs to science or something, and just replace their body with a Muppet for the burial and the wake.
I like that.
And I'm in. I
Yeah.
also want to do that.
It's pretty good. Yeah. Everything except for my eyeballs. I want regular googly eyeballs on my Muppet.
Yeah, perfect. So they think that her spirit was left behind, or part of her spirit was left behind. And it sounds a little weird, and like you would normally shrug it aside. But after the family sold the house, hauntings were prevalent throughout the house, and it was a little girl, as well as the Peele family. The people were seeing a little girl there, a little girl playing, a little girl singing. And it got so severe that one of the owners ends up locking the door of the room, because it was always in the room that Marjorie had her surgery. So I don't know if he barricaded it or deadbolted it. I took some liberties with the opening story, obviously, as always with the opening ghost story. Not all of that technically happened, but Marjorie did go back to the house. It is important to note that Marjorie did go back to the house when she was much older with her husband. She was talking to the new owner. They got to that door and it was blocked off. And she said, "Why is this door blocked?" And he's like, basically, "You'll probably think I'm crazy, but a little girl died in this room. And ever since we bought the house and before, there's been significant amount of hauntings from a little girl in here. So we've just locked the door off." And Marjorie looks at him and goes, "I'm the little girl that died in that room," and told him the story. And from reports of Marjorie, he didn't believe her. He was just like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
It's like, no,
I mean-
bro, it's me. I know what I've done. Like, but
I mean,
Marjorie,
it is sort of an unbelievable story.
it is for sure. And Marjorie lived to the year 2000, I believe, if 2000 or the early 2000s. So she lived a long life, but people think that her ghost was haunting the whole time that she was alive. And this is not something we typically hear with hauntings.
I like the theory though, because, and we talked about this briefly in the interview we did with the guy who died 7 times after a heart attack.
Yeah.
And he was talking about weird things he was experiencing in his house, and he hadn't even tossed around the idea that he could be haunting himself. We talked about that. Like, if you died in the house, that energy that you left there when you died, that could be residual energy. You could literally be haunting yourself.
Yeah.
For those of you unfamiliar with that, you can go back. It's Interview with a Dead Man. It's still on the feed, so you can go back and listen to that interview. But very interesting. It brings up it just opens up a whole new book of possibilities that we've never thought of when it comes with this stuff. So what is the going theory with this? Do we now think there's three possibilities here? Possibility number one is they just got it wrong and it's a different ghost. That's probably the easiest and most probable explanation, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Possibility number two is the weird one of, did her soul leave her body? And did it not quite get back to the body like the workers thought with the sheet and whatever the theory was? So is her own ghost haunting that building before she died, which would be a first for me. And then possibly number three is it's just not haunted, right? So if we're going with, believing that the reports that the building is haunted, it's either one or two, right? So it's either they're just getting it wrong and it's a completely different ghost that haunts that building, or two is partially her ghost while she's still alive, which would be a strange case.
I don't think it has to be the extreme of her soul left her body and her soul is now trapped in this. It could be just the more natural that if a ghost is just residual energy, that the residual energy left over after she died is lingering in that house, and maybe there's an emotion attached to it or something.
So when her soulless body came back to do that tour, do you think she was acting a little different? Like, hey, you seem like a woman without a soul.
Yeah.
Do you think it's in that locker room?
Were you always a redhead?
Yeah. Jeez. Sorry, Soph.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
No, Rob, where are you at on that? What do you think about those possibilities? Am I leaving anything out?
No, I've been thinking about this since I started researching this one and writing it, and I don't know, man. It's so different, and I tend to lean towards what Dave's talking about. Like maybe it is a residual because it hasn't been reported as anything intelligent at all. Like in terms of responding, from what I've seen, it's all been stuff that could be classified as residual energy and a residual haunting. So maybe, but what would trigger that to happen? Do you have to die for that do you have to release that energy for? I mean,
maybe she did kind of die a little bit and then came back.
Well, she did die. That is
died enough to. But we're talking about doctors of the time. They buried people alive like every day. So who knows? Brent, you're a resident expert on burying people alive. What do you think this could be?
Well, you've been in my yard, have you?
No.
No, I think it's probably residual imprints. There's been other cases of people very much alive that have left imprints of themselves. One story, if you don't mind me paraphrasing it quick, was this woman and her husband. She was very pregnant. They bought a new house and he was active duty and he got shipped off. And so she was left to try to establish this house and stuff. Well, one day the army came to her door and said he passed away in conflict. And she was very pregnant by this time. And she was obviously dealing with a lot of grief. And one of the things that she would repeatedly do was take her belly and kind of rest it on the kitchen counter and lean into the sink and just let it out. And this was her coping mechanism, just to let it out. It was the only place she felt comfortable enough to stand there and just release. Well, she ended up having the child, realized the house was too much. And so she opted to sell it, but she had become friends with the neighbors. And so she moved away with her child. The house was purchased by someone else. And a couple of years later, she visited her friends who were the neighbors. And they were talking and visiting. And she asked, well, how's it going for the new owners of the house? Are they doing okay? They said, yeah, but they're having this really weird thing happen. And she goes, what's that? And it says, there's this apparition of a woman next to their sink bawling, appearing all the time.
Oh, wow.
And she was very much alive. So she had apparently left some kind of imprint there that would just cycle and repeat. It wasn't intelligent, but it was a residual haunt that she left herself.
That's interesting.
That is so wow. This is like something pretty much new that we have here.
Yeah.
I mean, it follows though, because if we liked the theory that after a person dies, they don't necessarily have to haunt the place that they died. They could haunt a place that they spent a lot of energy, whether it's negative energy or positive energy. They could leave an imprint there. So I guess why would you have to die for that to happen if you already left the energy there?
Right. Yeah.
That's a good point. Very interesting.
There's always
Any
something
other-
new, right? Always something new in hauntings to consider and to wrap your mind into a pretzel as you cover all these stories. This is episode 148 of the main episodes. We've covered so many other things as well. And we come across new types of hauntings all the time still.
New to us.
Well, that's what I mean. Like new to us versus, others.
Very true.
Pretty cool, though. Pretty cool. So this building is now a museum. As far as I have seen, it's open for tours, so you can go in there and check it out. Do they host any kind of paranormal stuff, or from what you've seen, do they embrace it?
I don't think it's like an embraced thing. I think they do the typical during like September, October. They do like the ghost tour thing, or stuff like that. From what I think I was reading, not sure if they still do it, but I saw that. Also, if you do go to this museum, or you live in Bentonville, Arkansas, I need somebody to go get actual footage of the outside of this place, because whoever I found like one video on it, and as you may have saw in the episode, that person I think was being pulled away by a demon by how violently he was moving the camera. He or she was moving the camera because it was rough, but that's all I could find.
Yeah, while he was filming, they were actually reenacting the surgery on him, so it was tough to hold that camera straight.
Yeah, and if drone pilot Rob doesn't think your footage is good enough, then you know it's bad.
All right, relax. Relax.
Anything else on this building?
No, that was it. I mean, you've had a lot of families that live there, so I also think that there could be a lot of other children that could be getting mistaken for her as well, because you did have the Peele family, you had a few other families that live there. But the story of Marjorie just really like caught my attention when I was doing my research, and that's why we went with this particular location.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Well. That is Bentonville, and that is some pretty. Those were some very different stories that we've never really experienced here on the show before. So that is pretty cool to have. Here's what we're going to do now. We're going to do our first giveaway. Now, this isn't the only giveaway, so I do want people to be not bummed out if you lose this, but what we're going to do is we're going to give away one of these cursed items that we caught last week, or that we found online last week. Now, don't worry.
How are we going to autograph these? We promised we would sign them, so we need to sign them, but
well, the good thing is, so for those that missed last week's episode, we found these cursed Furbies, which are, as far as we know, not actually cursed. They just look weird. So they're these Furbies with human legs. And we are actually so glad that Brent joined us on the show, because we've been looking for human legs that we can attach to this. So Brent's been so kind as to donate his legs to this giveaway. So we're going to...
I don't need them anyway. I just need to sit in the chair.
That's it. Yeah, none of us really do. So for this week, we'll give away Brent's legs attached to a Furby, and plenty of room to sign. So let's do this for the next 10 people, just to keep it basic. If you type !giveaway in chat, I will enter your name into this wheel of names. If your name is left off, just send us a message on Discord and we'll include you in the next one. But we're just going to do 10 to keep it easy and relatively quick here. And in the meantime, Rob, do you have some reviews?
Rob, you're muted.
You're muted.
I don't have any reviews. I was trying to pull up a picture of the Furbies, but it won't load on my screen. So can one of you guys try to pull it up?
They are cursed after all.
I'm going to give that up to Dave,
here we go.
Copy names here.
All right. I have it, I think. As people are doing that, we will show pictures of these Furbies. They are quite fun. I am excited to show these as it goes away again. Let's try to get one of these pictures to come up.
You can kind of see it down there.
Yeah, let's just do this. Here you go, guys.
What the hell?
Here's your long leg Furbies. We're going to be giving away some of these. We're going to sign these. And
I just want you to know that if you did sign up already, you can't back out now that you've seen it.
Yeah. Yeah. You must.
Right, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I have 12 names here, so I lied. But also, who started the stickers trend? No one said type stickers in chat. We haven't done that in years. Stop it. So,
because the exclamation point thing.
Oh, did the stickers thing come up? Oh, you know why? Because people are typing exclamation point giveaway, and that triggers that thing. So sorry about that. We're still learning. Yeah, we just started this You know, who knows?
Yeah.
Okay, so here are the names on the list. If you're not on this lane, don't take. If you're not on this list, don't take offense. We are doing this on the fly, and like I said, we'll get you on the next one. We will be giving away, I believe, a total of 5 of these. So this is just the first of many giveaways. So let's go ahead and spin the wheel here first. Brent, you can make up the spin the wheel music on the spot. Go ahead and sing any song you like. Go ahead.
There it is.
Why was he so ready for this? Thanks for the copyright infringement. Aussie T.
I hope you're not really in Australia.
I think he is.
We're gonna try to send it to you.
No, I'm kidding.
It just became an expensive gift.
Oh man,
We didn't lay down any ground rules, so
we did not.
The first one going to Australia. Oh boy.
All right. Well, lucky you, Aussie T. Congratulations. We'll get this sent out to you regardless of how many
We'll
thousands we
pay
have
the
to spend on
$300 shipping.
We're gonna get a lake kangaroo to just come over and swim it over. That'd be perfect.
We're gonna send Dave in his kangaroo onesie.
So the new rules for the next giveaway is someone actually has to be further away than Australia to win this. It's actually and how inconvenient can this shipping process get?
Please gift some subs, everybody. We're gonna need it.
Anyone here from the moon?
Anyways, let's hop into our patrons real quick. Starting with our VIPs, we have Ryan F, Justin W, Jay Gooch 725, Jennifer A, Jeremy M, Casey W, Brandina 77, Kathy F, Octopus Clown Maid at the Clown Motel haunting Rob's dreams, Ghost Nurse, JP, another Vice. Dave has a new kangaroo onesie with a bottom flap. You can wear that when you ship this thing by hand to Australia. West Virginia coal miner Tess, Mother McTibbles tucking her herd of ghost children into Rob's bed. Sweet dreams, Rob. Jesse is the most handsome, strong, and brave. Kate and Steve M, Sharon V, Glitter Tease, Cameron from Washington, Kelly C, Jennifer P, Nick, Liz Young, Donnie N, Inspires Gaming, Allison V, Robert H, Anna C, Jeannie, Mom and Pops W, Papa Squatch, Lisa J, and Boaty McBoatface. Thank you so much.
Bodie McBoatface is Michael Shane, who is the RIP
of the week. Hell yeah.
Yes.
All right, so we have for the Warren's words, all caps, I won't scare you with my booze, but I'll shock you with my booty. Degenerate gambler voodoo ghost who shouldn't have hit on 19. Jamie E, Nick M, T-Cat, Whisper. Jeremy M, Beth C, Shawners, Rachel G, Sarah B, Her Lady Spook Ship, Slosh Denoshkosh, Julie Gooley, Arcade Hunters, Colby Has Beer, and Knob Creek. That is a good combination, Colby. You can hang out with us anytime. Kath Q, DC, Chris Connolly, LBPS founder, next HTGS guest. The other Rachel B, Sarah Cook, Janice G, Lily, Vampire Sandpaper on Rob's Toes. Oh, Lily, if no one answered in chat earlier, Vanity Plate is a custom plate in Massachusetts. I saw you ask that a couple times. I don't know if anybody answered you. Also, moving on, we have the reincarnation of Isaac Fisher Jr., Springfield, Vermont. So we'll have to Google that one.
Right.
Thank you, Sydney. She turned me into a new Steph A, Steph on guitar, and Human Soup. Thank you so much for being part of the Warren's Words. And finally, we will hop into the Ghost Pirate Mafia, kicking it off with Susan C. I'm just ghostly, Jesse, not ghouly. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. Witchy Kitty 416, Deb 62, Karen L, Michael M, Rob's broken-hearted, discarded hot dog end. Wow, that's heartbreaking.
What the hell?
Listen.
I don't even know.
You're not supposed to eat the ends of hot dogs. I've been trying to tell you guys this for months.
Oh no. Okay.
It's buttholes. It's a butthole. You don't eat a butthole. I mean, some people do, but you don't eat a butthole.
As much as I would like to say it's not, it kind of could be because it's a hot dog, so you never really know. Amber R, Brant C, Mrs. Nardozzi, Shane O'Mac, Joe, Shay, Trevor S, Amanda H, Christina S, Kate C, Kelly C, bloop, bloop. Crazy Legs. Cowboys are 5-8 tanking season. That needs to be updated. Just call me Bree, Miss Macabre, Michelle, Naroku, Cold Warrior, The Triumphant Return of Youngstown Pizza, D from H-Town, Glad. All
right.
That's an A. Monster Mom 04, Wicked Alley, Dark Snark. Rob got drunk and I don't know if I can read this. Hang on a second. Hang on, Cosmo.
Donnie, I'm just going to answer Donnie's comment. There's sacrifices you have to make sometimes, and yes, you have to eat. You have to eat one end.
He eats his dogs a long way.
He bites it through the middle first, just in
I was
case.
gonna say you can start in the middle and work your way out to each end.
That's what I'm going to start doing.
I'm going to read this because it's on Patreon, but I'm going to add an allegedly. Okay, so if you're going to make claims like this, you got to add an allegedly, even if it's absolutely true. Rob allegedly got drunk and naked at little Timmy's birthday party, which is why he's not allowed there anymore. So, allegedly. Megan S. Morgan S. Applehead Santa deaf sees you when you are sleeping. Wayne C. 1,000 octopus feet crawling in bed while Rob sleeps. Crystal Quinn, a.k.a. not a Rob fan. Thick Boy, Freddy's baby mama was definitely yeeted. Alicia E. Thick. I'm sorry. I just immediately went to thick, but it's not. The recently departed Thick Ghost. Aggressively yeeted from the semi-newly rebuilt Virginia Street Bridge. 'Twas that devil woman. Swanee. Walmart's
Still don't
wide
understand
open.
how they fit that many characters.
What's the character count on these names? Jesus.
Not enough. No, too much, some would say. Sorry. Walmart's wide open under the store lights. Welcome to this place. Small chance you will get chased. San Fran Paul, Joe R. Al Capone, Huggy Bear, Count Orlok, a.k.a. Dr. Robotnik.
Yep.
Dr. Robotnik. Didn't say that well. Solar Flare. Next up, we have Mariah M., Kiralee J., Rachel B., Anthony. Can y'all please review a bad horror movie I miss? Angry Dave T.
Oh, buddy.
Luckily for you, that's our plan
buddy.
tonight. Cody G., Brandon W., Hooply Whooply, The Bridge Witch, and Dave Wilkins. Which is my favorite Patreon name because it's not Dave. That's very good.
It's just identity theft.
I have to show you
is.
guys something before we leave, just because I
Yes.
saw it. So now you guys have to see it real quick. So there's that. Oh God!
You can't just break that on the podcast, getting a bunch of us all hot and heated. All right, take that off the screen, please. That's absolutely
You
amazing.
want to describe to our listeners, our audio listeners, what it is?
It is another Furby with Brent's legs, and it is in a very seductive position by the window. So we're all impressed by this. We love it. Brent, before we go, do you want to plug anything for the Paranormal Portal? You got anything special coming up?
Every day is special on the Paranormal Portal, Jesse. But nothing specifically that I know of. No, just tune in. I do live streams Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and the podcast release every Monday. So hopefully you guys will tune in and check it out.
Perfect. I do as often as I can. It's always a good time. Very well put together show.
We've been
Again,
on
you can
that
find.
show at least twice.
I believe so. Well, we've definitely been on. I don't know
You'll
if
be
you-
on again. Where I was just thinking that. So
That's what I'm talking
I don't-
about.
I don't
I
know.
believe the key is to hit you up 30 seconds before the show
Yeah.
starts.
That's what we're gonna do.
it works for me.
We're ready.
It
Brent.
does apparently. It's not
Hit
the first time.
record.
Anyways,
Quick update on our cursed possession acquisition from last week. We did buy the cursed marionette puppet doll, which I do have. It came in today.
Ooh.
So I've been practicing my marionette skills. So I'll post a video of that on TikTok probably later today or tomorrow.
Why can't you show it to us right now?
Oh, it's because it's in my garage because my wife will not allow it in the house.
but it keeps knocking on the door to get in, so everything's fine. It's perfectly normal.
It's fine.
Anyways, once again, thank you to Brent Thomas for joining us. You can follow the Paranormal Portal wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe on YouTube to join in on his live chats. It's always a good time. Very well researched and well put together show, which we always appreciate, and we always appreciate you having on coming on the show, my friend.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys. I really love it.
Absolutely. Hell yeah. And thanks to everyone who hung out in live chat today. Once again, big shout out to Brenda C for gifting 50 Hometown Ghost Stories memberships. Congratulations to Aussie T for winning the very first of the giveaways. We'll let you guys know what's going to happen.
You won it in Australia. Yeah.
Absolutely. For those of you interested in the music, new album drops on Friday, January 10th. So be on the lookout for that. It'll be available on all of your favorite music streaming apps and stuff. So you can go ahead and pick that up. Teamed up with Casher, who actually made the music for our horror movie reviews. So if you like the theme song from that, but also he sang on the last album and he will be on this one as well. So new album comes out on Friday. And I think that's pretty much it, gentlemen. Anything else?
Yeah, just join the Discord so you know how to be part of the next giveaway.
Yes. We'll give you more secrets on how to win on the next one.
Yes.
All right, folks, that'll pretty much do it. Thank you so much for joining in. And we'll talk to you next time. Thanks again, Brent.
Thank you.